Hi, everyone. Welcome. This is Ashley Turner, and I am here with my dear friend Tommy Rosen. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. I'm so excited to talk to you, Ashley.
I am so excited to talk to you. Today, we're talking about addiction and recovery from a holistic perspective, and I'm so honored because I'm joining Tommy on an amazing free teleconference. It's March 17th to the 21st, all about addiction recovery. It's called Recovery 2.0. So, Tommy, I want to just jump in because you're such an expert in the field of recovery, and tell us a little bit about specifically Recovery 2.0. And I know, the perspective that you're taking is really unique and cutting edge.
Yeah. So to get right to the point, addiction is, in my opinion, it's the largest social problem we face in the world today. It goes way beyond just drugs and alcohol, but it also includes food. And when you start talking about food, you have to consider childhood obesity. You have to consider diseases like type 2 diabetes. And these are all preventable diseases that are driven by food addiction. Of course, we get into sex and relationships. We get into money, gambling, debting, and all these places where human beings get tripped up. It's a massive problem. I don't feel like we've sort of garnered all the resources that we can. Recovery 2.0 was about taking a holistic perspective to putting people's lives back together. And that's for if you're in acute addiction, you've got a major problem, or if you're just facing a hurdle and you feel like, I might have a problem, I might not, I don't know what to do. Wherever you are on that path, we want to use everything in our power to get ourselves onto our destiny path so we can be, living life on purpose and feel empowered and feel like we're on the right track for us.
I love how you just worded that, on our destiny path. Like, it really is our destiny to live our best life, to live from our highest self. And I know in my private practice, in psychotherapy, and then also with my yoga students, especially on retreats, when I really get the opportunity to drop in with people, honestly, we're all dealing with addiction on some level. Maybe it's overwork or addiction to perfection, addiction to sugar. And then in relationships, it's such a huge, huge issue when we talk about letting go or moving on, codependency, and all the behaviors that center around that. So thank you so much for putting this together.
Oh my God. I say this to a lot of people plainly. I hate what addiction does to people. In the worst cases, it kills people. And in sort of slightly worse cases, you get to live sort of a half-life. And you get to watch your relationships fall apart, and you get to watch your relationship with yourself fall apart. And you live this sort of disconnected existence, and it's terrible. It's the opposite of being on your destiny path, to be in active addiction. And once people realize that, usually they'll grab at anything that can put them on the right track.
And I mean, just to speak honestly myself about addictive tendencies that I have, I worked with one of my greatest teachers, Mona Miller, and she would always talk about the addict archetype. And at first I had such an aversion to that. And I know working with my clients, a lot of people have a huge aversion to naming themselves an addict or thinking they're addicted to something. And I really started to understand working with her a much broader definition of what an addict is. And so I really work all the time with my addictive tendencies, again, around sugar, around emotional eating, food. When I notice I get distracted in overworking or my perfectionism, that really is hindering me from more joy. So can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think there's a lot of people that I know, I mean, personally, I'm working with a few clients right now who recognize, okay, they drink a little here and there. Sometimes it gets a little out of control, but they're not really ready to let go of it. Or even people that really recognize themselves as addicts, but they're not ready to quit smoking pot or, quit drinking.
Yeah, so you bring up two really important points. Number one is the point about languaging around recovery. So a lot of people have an issue with, say, calling themselves an addict. And I happen to be one of those people. And I'm somebody who has struggled with drug addiction, alcoholism, and gambling, and cigarettes, and obviously, relationship and sex issues like everybody. So even though I've had all those, addictions, I won't label myself as an addict. Even in 12-step meetings, I will not raise my hand any longer and say, My name's Tommy, you know, da da da. What I will say is my name is Tommy, and I'm in recovery from addiction, or I experience addiction, because I don't identify with the. It doesn't seem accurate to me that I am an addict or that anybody is really. We're people who are seeking. We're looking for something, and people who struggle with addictions have found a temporary fix in a substance or a behavior. And when that temporary fix doesn't work any longer, you know, things start to fall apart, and they have to find. Hopefully they come home to their heart, and they have to do some healing and do some work around that. So the first thing is languaging. If you don't like the idea of calling yourself an addict, then don't. You know.
Right.
But what you want to look at is your relationship with substances or people or food or whatever the addiction or the problem might be. It's the quality of our relationship with those things, which is where we want to get clear on. So there's that. And then the second point you bring up is about this particular kind of person. And I think they're probably almost every human being is sort of asking themselves, if they're awake, they're sort of asking themselves, you know, how can I do better? How can I be happier? How can I be at peace? How can I be of service? How can I be a better spouse? How can I be a better parent? You know, how can I work better? How can I make more money and find more abundance? We're all sort of looking, and we're going down this questioning, this path of questioning. But some people struggle around substances or other addictive behaviors, and they're not like fall down drunks, or they're not. You know, they're not heroin addicts, and it's not so cut and dry. Like they don't fit what they think is the category of a person who struggles with addiction. For those people, I would simply say it is time to go on a fact-finding mission, and you are on a mission to find out about yourself and what truly serves you and what truly doesn't. Now, for example, let's just take alcohol. It's an easy one. It's something that's super accepted and promoted and advocated in our society. It's marketed to us in 1,000 different ways. And so if you drink, and let's say you drink some alcohol, you tie one on every now and then. It makes you feel a little relaxed. It takes the edge off, and you like the feeling it produces. You know, if there's no consequence to that. There's no negative consequence in your life. It's not affecting your relationships. You don't think it's affecting your health. You can't identify any negative consequence to that. Then, you know, on some level, maybe that's something that works for you in your life. Like I'm actually like, you know, there are some people like that. Now, I would say that alcohol, no matter who you are, is going to affect your body adversely. Right. It's a depressant, so if you're feeling a little depressed, the last thing you want to do is drink some alcohol. And everybody's felt the feeling of being hungover, where you know you get dry mouth, you might have a splitting headache, or you know, in the worst cases, you really are sort of out of action for a day or two. Those are negative consequences, and so if you're seeing those in your life, you might have to begin to ask yourself, you know, is what I'm getting in the short term out of, you know, this habit worth what I have to pay in the long term? You know, and it's really going to take a lot of vigilance and really a lot of honesty.
Yeah, I was going to say radical honesty.
Radical. You know, you have to look yourself in the mirror and say, wow, you know, I like the feeling when I drink, but I have to sort of give up, you know, the next 2 days of my life. It's like, well, you know, at some point you might get tired of that. And then the question is, can you stop? And now that's really where we sort of address this issue of addiction or alcoholism. If you find that, you know, any human being that is not an alcoholic who genuinely wants to stop drinking alcohol should be able to stop. And so you could just do a little test, you know, take 30 days out of your life, and for that 30 days, you know, just give up drinking. And explore sort of what your relationship is with it. See how it feels to give that up. Now, if you're absolutely unable to give it up, you know, you might have to go to that next level of inquiry and say, wow, you know, maybe I have an issue here. Maybe I'll step into an AA meeting and communicate with some people there and see what's there, just sort of see what they're talking about, or maybe I'll talk about this with my therapist or a good friend or a rabbi or a priest or whoever your sort of spiritual counselor might be, to try and get some clarity around this issue. I know I'm talking a lot, Ashley.
No, it's great. It's great. It's interesting because I do work, like, let's take, for example, I work with a few different couples, and several of them, we're working on their conflict or their anger management or their communication. And one of the first questions I always ask is alcohol involved or drugs? But honestly, it's more often than not alcohol. And when they say yes, which is usually, we really do that inquiry around, well, how is that affecting the quality of your relationship? Because it's escalating your arguments, it's escalating your anger, your frustration, you're getting triggered about things that maybe you wouldn't otherwise. And it's really important. And I think the other point that you bring up, which is so key, and also for this teleconference, is this is not just for, as you said, like radical addicts where, they're down and out or you're getting hammered every night. This is for people this is for everyone, just how to deal with our addictive tendencies. And again, whether it's something as subtle as sugar or work or, I know for myself, just how do I tend to anesthetize? And then asking myself, well, what is it that I'm running from? So can you speak just a little bit to that, like the root cause of when we turn to addictive tendencies, behaviors, or substances, what are we trying to get away from? Our feeling states, our truth. Speak to that just a little bit.
I truly believe that at the root of all addiction is some form of trauma. And that can be subtle, or it can be, a subtle form of trauma might be a sense of abandonment or neglect. More hardcore form of trauma could be a sexual abuse or a physical abuse, or just a general sense of insecurity, not feeling a sense of safety in the world.
Yeah.
And as people grow up, a lot of these traumas go sort of unworked, unprocessed. They live in the body in the form of stuck emotional energy, and they affect our behavior. And, it's like this. I can remember a time in my life when you could have come up to me and said, if I could have been honest in the moment, and you said, how are you feeling? I would have told you, it's the strangest thing. Everything's okay, but I don't feel like everything's okay. I look out at my life and, I have a job and I have a roof over my head and I'm eating healthy food and, I've got relationships and I have friends and it's like, generally like everything's okay, but everything isn't okay. And what that was for me was a lot of really deep-seated feelings of negativity, of self-doubt, of insecurity, things that really needed to be worked through. And they were making my very good life feel not very good. It's why you can never judge somebody's life by what's on the outside. Because you can have what appears to be a very abundant, centered, wonderful life, and inside it's sort of a hurricane. So I feel like people when they anesthetize themselves in whatever way, it's always there's some core sense of lack, some core sense of something being wrong. It could even be that things are so right. They're uncomfortable.
Very good point. Very good point.
It's like there's a real. It talks about this in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous that there's this strange phenomenon that happens when people are on the verge of success. They go out and drink. They may have been sober for a very long time. They've built their life back up, and they're at the verge of some successful business venture. Like something great is about to happen. And they completely freak out, go off the wagon, and they start drinking. Like that's a real phenomenon within that program. We see that a lot, and I think what that is like people are starting to realize like, wow, I could be a successful person,
right?
Like I could actually be okay,
yeah,
and that doesn't feel okay to me, So that means there's more work to be done, and hopefully those people get to do that work. I don't know. I hope that answers your question.
No, that was great. I think that, that form of self-sabotage that can be so insidious, or when we finally get into a relationship that's really loving, that's really tender, that we're really feeling that intimacy, and then we do something to sabotage it, whether it's running away or, sabotaging it by cheating. Actually, that's another behavior that's common. Anything like that. And it's so common. And then on the flip side of that, in relationships, the other one that I see that I've been working with a few people on is breakups, because breakups can be a very traumatic experience, and then the codependency that can come from that, even if you're not playing it out with the person that you're in a relationship with, if maybe you don't have contact anymore, but you're still really holding on to that person, you're still checking up on them on Facebook, or that sort of codependent, like you're hooked into them, and it's an attachment that's naturally strong, but then it's working the discipline of the letting go, of dealing with the pain or dealing with grief, dealing with the challenge of moving forward. And doing that consciously means that we have to feel all those feelings and give ourselves a lot of space and a lot of time to digest all of that, instead of shoving it down in whatever way we can mask it with addictive tendencies. So that's the other way that I see it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, one of the things I wanted to say about the Recovery 2.0 conference is that we've got 35 speakers, and they're coming at this issue from literally 35 different perspectives. Mm-hmm. So you've got a lot of people who are, savvy about the 12 steps. You've got a lot of people who are that's really not their path. Really, they're more on the meditation tip, mm-hmm. or they're yogis, mm-hmm. And from a variety of different yoga disciplines. And so you've got that. You've got people addressing diet and sugar and the connection between sugar and other forms of addiction, gambling, sex, food. We talked about. So there's people talking about every aspect of addiction and recovery. And what's so powerful for me, I've now done these interviews, and I honestly believe that if you could take the sum total knowledge that's expressed in these interviews and somehow package it, like people are going to be able to see these interviews and take it in.
Yeah.
But I think I'm going to start thinking about how to put it in a more condensed form, mm-hmm. because this knowledge, it is going to stack the odds in favor of anybody's successful life. Right. Definitely. Mm-hmm. And so it's so powerful, and it's completely free. So
amazing.
Proud to offer it that way. And a lot of people have asked Ashley, like, what if I can't take in all this information in these 5 days? What do I do? And so we are making the talks. The whole conference is available for sale for $99. If somebody wanted to buy all 35 hours of footage, and they wanted to listen in their car or on their iPod or whatever it was, we can sell it to them for $99, and that's something that they can have for the rest of their life and work with this stuff.
So exciting, yeah. And thank you so much for putting this together. I don't know that I've seen anything so holistic and comprehensive, and like you said, coming at it from a really also spiritual perspective, which at the root is the root cause of why we get stuck in addiction. It's all about our relationship with ourselves. So I think you really tackle it in such a thorough way in this conference. So it's such an honor. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, it's Recovery 2.0, and the website is just Recovery 2.0, right?
Yeah, but I think you have a link.
Yep, right below this video. There's a link straight to the conference, and all the speakers are listed. So please check it out, everyone. Enjoy, give us your feedback. And one of the most powerful things about working through any of our challenges is doing it and finding a group and finding a tribe, finding support. So leave your comments. Let us know your stories. Feel free to share. Email me, email Tommy. We are definitely here for you. Thank you so much, brother. Yeah. What an honor.
You're welcome, Ashley. I just have profound respect for you and your path, and I'm so honored that you would lend your voice to this conference. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And I will see you at the Recovery 2.0 conference. Take care, honey. Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.